everyone, and welcome back to the Disc-ussions, where we talk about movies, music, and everything in between. My name is Adrian, your host as usual, aka Move Mantis, with my lovely co-host here.
Hey, I'm Daniel, aka Rated DG-13.
And I'm Hunter. I'm just Hunter.
And yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Chan is missing, obviously, from the last episode. We'll also be talking about Dune as well, but we're going to start off talking about kind of our favorite things, or I guess not favorite things, most anticipated things for the year.
Yeah, there's a bunch of video game movies coming out.
There are? Really?
There's Minecraft, there's the Fallout TV series.
Is that all coming out this year?
And Borderlands.
Oh, yeah. What the? Yeah, what? I completely forgot about it. You guys saw that? Did you guys see that? You heard about this? Seen this?
The Borderlands trailer?
Yeah, the Borderlands trailer. Why did they get 50-year-old Tilda, or no, not Tilda Swinton, what's her name? She was in Tar. Kate Blanchett. Kate Blanchett. Why did they get, 50-year-old Kate Blanchett to play this 20-year-old, swashbuckling, bounty hunter? No one French her. She's a great actor. If you ever seen Tar, I saw Tar, what was that? 2022, I think? Mm-hmm. Was that last year or was that the year before?
Yeah, it was 22. She
is great in that movie. She's amazing. I'm surprised that movie didn't win anything. I don't think it did. But she's great. She's a great actor. But come on, really? It just looks so odd on her. It just doesn't fit right. It's literally like a mismatched head, like a swapped Lego head. It looked so off.
No, I just like that they got...
I completely forgot about it, too, until just now, till you said something.
Yeah, just like they got Jack Black for, almost all of it.
And then Kevin Hart for, I forgot the guy's name, but, they got him play the soldier guy, who's in the game is, 6 foot and buff. It's Kevin Hart. This is just so, this seems like something I'd see on a fan poster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like someone tweeted out now this looks like a cool movie, and it's was it? I saw one recently. It was Teen Titans, and it was Timothy Chalamet and Anya Taylor-Joy and Tom Holland and just all these. It just looks so odd and goofy looking. It looks so weird. I'm not. That's not one of my anticipated things at all. I'm not gonna see that shit.
Oh no! I mean, I probably will end up watching all of it just because we end up usually watching stuff like that. I mean, the same reason I watched Wonka. I didn't really want to, but I did. So I probably will end up watching it.
You said that. Is that Minecraft movie come out this year? Is that this year?
Not this year.
I have no idea.
It's around the corner.
Jeez.
All right.
Jason Momoa.
Well, more recent
it's
stuff.
definitely not any of those. I'm definitely not excited for any of that shit. Well, one of the only things and I was talking about this with you guys, obviously off the air, but there's really nothing Marvel related I'm into besides that Deadpool movie. Mm-hmm. That especially if they play it right and they write it right, it can be one of the best Marvel things in a while, because Lord knows. Oh, Marvel needs something. I think the last good thing was probably Moon Knight or something. I really like Moon Knight. That was a couple years ago though, right? I didn't see the latest season of Loki. I think that came out this year, is earlier this year, or maybe late last year as well. If anything, I'm more excited for the DC stuff coming out, but most of that's next year. I don't think any of that's this year, right?
Yeah, nothing from the universe, but Joker 2 is coming out later this year.
Oh yeah.
So
no, yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that. I heard or I saw an article that they might release it in 70mm. Oh. I know we went to go see the original Joker in 70mm, and I thought that was pretty worth it. So I definitely go see the second one. I don't want to even say I'm not excited. I'm just kind of unsure. I'm curious if anything else.
Yeah, me too. I'm much more excited about the premise itself, because it is going to be a musical apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that just really interests me, because I feel they should be doing after last year's just the Flash, Ant-Man 3 and all that horrible just and Madam Web recently. I think it's time to at least, if they want to continue doing superhero movies, they have to start getting weirder with their premises and ideas. So I think that this is a good direction to take. Even if it doesn't turn out good, I'm very interested to see it. It's much more than Deadpool, honestly, because that's just going to be like, finally, Wolverine and Deadpool on the screen together.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying. If they just write it right and I don't really know how to say it more than, don't write it in like a stupid way, like in just like a basic like a kid having two action figures, like Wolverine, Deadpool will go fight the Twinkie monster, or whatever stupid shit they want to make up. Like it can't just turn into like a Ready Player One, where it's just like a shit ton of references.
That's all. That's
it.
That's what it's gonna be, man. That's what it's gonna be.
Like I don't mind the references, right? And I don't mind that they're trying to insert him in the MCU. But again, if they just write it in a good way with good characters and a good plot, and it's not just, oh yeah, remember Ben Affleck Daredevil? Remember that? Remember like 60s Thor?
That's that's all Deadpool's ever been to me. Like he has this like air of, I don't want to say superiority, but just like thinking that he's more clever than he actually is, when he just kind of like he does the stories themselves, they're not like clever satires. He just points out how dumb they are compared to not even compared to, but just like they're going to continue to do the same tropes as like other superhero movies, but they're just going to point out how dumb it is. And that's not like really transforming it into anything like clever. And like those, they're like perfectly decent, but like I definitely got into Deadpool like way too late. I wasn't a teenager anymore. I wasn't like, I don't love like Ryan Reynolds. And especially since like this next one is going to be directed by the same guy who did Free Guy. I'm pretty sure, Sean Levy. Like, I think it's screwed. It's just going to be screwed for me anyway. I'm like, people are going to enjoy it for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think I am. And I love Hugh Jackman, and at the very least, it doesn't look like it's going to like mess with anything important. Like the way Logan wraps up, it's like, because Deadpool at least has always been this kind of like in between, kind of offhand kind of adventure guy, where like it doesn't really matter where it takes place in the timeline. Like it's just gonna be like regular Wolverine hanging out with him, and I do enjoy him consistently, even in like the terrible like X-Men Origins.
And I mean, I guess that's the thing. And I've been just a comic book fan in general since I was a kid, and so like to me that is kind of the Deadpool character. And I watched that, when that original Deadpool movie came out. Shit, when was that?
2016.
2016. I was 16 years old, dude. I was ripe yes, for that. Yeah. That was literally that was me. I am him. That is me, literally me. And so maybe that's why I'm a little more like optimistic, because I actually like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I think he's like that perfect snarky type of kind of the way he talks that really goes into that character. But just in general, that's like the only thing, at least Marvel-wise, I'm even like slightly excited for. I mean, Lord knows I'm not gonna go see fucking Kraven or what else is coming out.
Venom 3. I forgot that it's also coming out.
Is that also this year?
Yeah.
Jesus
now he's gonna fight the yellow one.
I don't care. Literally the only superhero thing I'm excited for at all is that's not even coming out this year, is like the sequel for the Batman. Like that's it.
Yeah, and then they pushed it too, and I'm glad. I'm glad because it seems like they really put their all into that.
And
first
the Penguin show is coming out this year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's coming out in a couple of weeks or like a month or something like that. Right?
Just about, yeah.
Damn.
By the time this gets uploaded, it'll be out.
It'll probably out already, yeah, by the time this is out. But right now, it'll coming out in a couple of weeks, and I'm willing to watch that. I think Colin Farrell did a good job as the Penguin. I'm not too kind of riding any kind of high on it. It is just a fucking Penguin, and what can you really do with that? But hey, as long as you got a good director, a good script, you can make anything interesting.
Well, I think they're probably going to use it as like a segue to be like, oh, here's this villain, here's this guy, and here's this reference. Like it probably will be a lot of like references and stuff.
Yeah.
Just don't Gotham it, and like I don't want to see like Clayface or like those are I love them in the animated stuff, but just like I feel like the Batman, like it needs to
it just needs to be references. It just
needs to fit with what they've established.
It needs to feel like actual world that we're not like, oh, look, you know that character, right? Oh, yo, woohoo!
Well, I think
I
they'll do
know
it.
who that is.
I think they'll do it in like
Like,
a good way though. Like
yeah.
I think they're just gonna expand the world.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty
they-
straightforward.
Yeah, they might show like a villain or two that you know from the series or whatever, but I don't think it's gonna be like super distracting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, if anything, I'm excited for the DC movies. The only other Marvel thing I was excited for, now, again, I was talking to you guys about it, that fourth season of Daredevil, that's gonna be really good because you forget that they made a whole, Netflix universe fucking almost a decade ago, which is even crazier that shit's almost a decade old.
Uh-huh.
It makes me feel old because I remember them announcing those shows and me getting excited for all those seasons. And I remember when the Defenders came out. I think that was also 2016 when it was kind of a big deal because that was like the first kind of team movie after the Avengers that weren't the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I mean it sucked, but all this hype of those other movies had me revisit them recently, and they're still really good, or at least some of it, like half of it. And something I didn't mention to you earlier, I also forgot they made that Punisher show too.
Yeah.
Another guy I hope they bring back definitely is John Bernthal is the Punisher. He's just a really good actor. John Bernthal is pretty consistent in most things that he's in, and he's really good in that Punisher role. Just sucks they only had like one season. Oh, they had two. Just only one of them was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still... I remember seeing the first 2 seasons of Daredevil and then falling off after Defenders, but I've been going through it again.
Oh, yeah.
And I've just been really loving it, and like... Yeah, I don't think Disney like has it in them to really capture what they did back then, because like, I mean, especially if it's going to Disney Plus, like... I'm bracing for like Stiltman to show up, because they don't really like restrain themselves anymore like they used to.
Yeah, no, especially it really feels like Silver Age, like comic book writing kinda. If you know anything about like the history of comic books, like or I believe it's the Silver Age, that's where all the campy stuff is, like Batman finding like the polka dot man and like getting tied to a giant penny by like fucking Two-Face or something. That's where all that wacky shit is, and it really feels like that's what they're going for, and that's like totally the opposite of those Netflix shows, and that's why I like them so much. And I mean, that's like one of the only things I'm excited for is that fourth season, because it's not even like the Zack Snyder type of gritty, It's just realistic. It's just genuine. They're people. It literally is just a blind guy who can hear with his ears and just fighting because he believes in what he's doing. And it's just that type of writing just seems like it's kind of lost on all the other movies. It's all about, big bad Ultron and 1,000 fucking robots coming in to fight. I'm gonna, be Thor and do a really cool move with Hulk because I'm awesome. Like, or just like, let's pack in like 50 references. I mean, just see how they used him in fucking what was it? He was in She-Hulk. Yeah. Like just look how they used him in that. Like, and I'm excited for that season, but if it's anything like that, I don't know. I just prefer him in like a serious, well written show or something like that. As far as like comic book stuff, it's like those like the only couple of things, and it's crazy to say that after like a couple years ago when there was like fucking 8 of them coming out. Like just dumping them like in the theaters literally, because it really just felt like, I'm just paying $15 to watch an issue of a comic book, and so I can go watch the other one. Like man, I don't know. Do you go see Shang-Chi?
Not in theaters, but I have seen it already.
Oh man, yeah, no, I went to see that shit in theaters, and man, oh god, Jesus Christ. Like I think that was like one of the only movies I saw post like Endgame. And I remember watching it and just being like, man, I'm glad I didn't watch any of these other movies, because if they're anything like this, holy shit, man, the MCU has just, like, crashed. At least, like, creatively wise. Like, they're still making tons of money. Except, I guess, if you're the Marvels. But like, it just feels so creatively bankrupt.
I think they're noticing that at least, though.
Fucking hopefully. I hope to.
If there's gonna be like a whole year without like I mean, Deadpool counts now, but like, you know, MCU, I don't know if they're like coming out with any more shows this year, but they're slowing their roll significantly more from when it has been since like the 20s have started, where it's just like pure conveyor belt, like cranked out, like as quickly as possible, and leading nowhere, because all that Kang stuff is done for. You're not going to salvage any of that. Like the road to get there has already been like screwed up.
Like, you know, social media, they could just recast and just be like, oh, it's just an alternate version.
But I was thinking about this, like,
they just do that
when I saw the end of
infinite multiverse.
When I saw the end of Ant-Man 3, and then like very soon after all that stuff about Jonathan Majors came out, I was just like, man, remember like The Dark Knight, where you could just like recast Rachel? And then people just got it, and it was just fine. Now it's just like, you need an explanation for every single recast. It has to be like this alternate universe thing.
Yeah.
And in this case, they like completely screwed themselves over, because they established that like all the Kangs are like the one constant in like every universe, and that's why he's like so powerful or whatever. It's like, because it's always gonna be that like one guy. And now if they recast him, it's just gonna be like, well,
it's funny. I think they did. And speaking of, because the episode just came out recently, that new season of Invincible. I don't know if you watched it at all. They basically do what the MCU was trying to do with Kang, just like 1,000 times better. And I wish they had done something like that, because it's like the same thing. A guy, he has the power to go to different universes, and he uses that to gather himself and basically like try to create a better world for himself and like all the other universes. And kind of like a Kang thing. He basically just brings all these versions of himself all together, and they just do it a lot more better in that, opposed to you know $1 billion company. But like, I feel like if you did recast it, I feel like people wouldn't really care too much. And just like try to play it off like, oh no, this is just Kang. This is just Kang. No, this is just Kang. What are you talking about? Like,
it's not just that. It's like the movies leading up to it. It's like people are gonna rewatch the Infinity Saga, even though they've had some like, you know, a few duds, and like a lot of them are like.
I think a few is
like, I mean, compared to now, like it's way more it was way more consistent back then.
Yeah.
But like in this case, like no one's gonna like, even if they do lead to the Kang versus the Avengers movie or whatever, like no one's gonna want to rewatch this era all together and enjoy it. You know, it's gonna be for like, it's gonna be it's gonna be homework. You know, because
I'm sure they'll just look up like a 30-40 minute video on YouTube, like, oh, everything you need to know before you go see Kang the movie.
That's as entertaining as watching the movies, is just like studying.
Basically you'd get the same enjoyment out of like a 30-40 minute recap video on YouTube than watching every single one of these godforsaken movies. I think that's the comic book side of the movies. Let's talk about like Garfield. Now, that's what I've been waiting to talk about. Not forgetting about Garfield. You know, Sam Jackson's gonna play his dad. You know that? That's so awesome. You know, that makes me want to go see the movie. Like, it makes me want to pay money to sit down and watch this movie.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Hey guys, I'm Mario.
I have nothing to say about Garfield.
Hey guys, I'm Garfield. Yeah. That's a movie coming out this year.
Like Chris Pratt or no, it was always gonna be a Garfield movie.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
he doesn't help, like, but like, you know,
it's not like that. Garfield is this great track record of like movies or just anything at all. So I guess I can't really bash on it too much, because I wasn't really expecting all that much. But even with what I was given, I'm still disappointed. Yeah. somehow.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It's just like, the same. I view it the same way I do like the Mario movie. It's like, it was always going to be made by Illumination. Like, it doesn't matter. It's frustrating that they think that Chris Pratt is just like, I mean, they know he's like a money magnet, but like that just gives him an excuse to like be anyone. And I don't want to blame him like personally, because I don't like it wasn't like his idea. I doubt he was like, oh, it's always my dream to be Mario and jump on the Goombas and
jump. What was it? It was it said jump on like the turtle shells and kill them or something, and like someone commented, Chris, you can't do that in the original Mario, Chris. No.
It's just like he's just like doing his job.
He's just like, he just gets paid to do stuff. Like, it's not I can't really. I mean, if someone's like, "Hey, you want to be Garfield for $12 million?" I'm like,
Of course,
sure,
yeah.
of course. Why not? Fuck it, who cares?
I'd say yes, and I'd still be worse than Chris Pratt.
Yeah, probably.
I really got nothing for this year. I mean, I think I said everything last episode that I want to watch. It's like 3 movies. I don't know. Unless there's something else that's coming out that I don't know about.
That third Paddington movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
That third Paddington movie, genuinely, like, it's funny, this whole time I've been kind of just shitting on everything that's coming out, and that's something, like, I'm genuinely, like decently excited, like, for me to watch. Like, I actually do want to go see that, just because it's, those first 2 Paddington movies are just so, I don't know, there's, like, one of the most universal movies I could ever watch. Like, I could show that to anyone, and I feel like anybody could like those movies. Unless you're just like an old, like, stick in the mud old man. Just like, oh, it's too happy.
I hate happiness.
Happiness. Yeah, like.
Yeah, I remember when that first trailer came out for the very first one. I was just like, this. It's just another one of these. And then I watched it. And I was like, whoa, this is like crazy competent and like rewatchable. Yeah. And then the trailer to the second one came out. And I was like, oh my god, you're not gonna this is so unnecessary. Just like leave it be. And then like that turns out to be like really solid.
Good, yeah.
And like I'm not quite as head over heels for it like some people are, like saying it's perfect. I just think they're like crazy good family movies that are like I don't understand why they're so rare. Like, why do they have to be this rare to be like this just like likable and like, yeah, just like so much personality. And like, you know, even Wonka that came out recently, I didn't like that very much at all, but like Paul King still like knows what he's doing directing wise. He's got a good like visual, a consistent style that I think is like really cool. And even though like the main lead Timothée Chalamet wasn't really like doing a good job in my opinion, like I think it didn't really fall on Paul King so much as it did like just kind of like weird casting and kind of the angle they wanted to take, whereas like it shouldn't have been so desperate to be Gene Wilder. It should have just like it should have just been his own thing, or like, you know, get someone else if you want like Gene Wilder, because it wasn't like working with him.
I don't know how much control he had either. Like he might have just been directing, you know, the script he's kind of given. Yeah. Like not really allowed to change much.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
big
it
franchise
could be
like that.
The old tided test of time rule that the studio wants you to act a certain way, or the studio wants you to do something, you're doing it. Kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like they probably most likely insisted on him. Oh, Gene Wilder, you gotta act more like Gene Wilder, man. You gotta be more Gene Wilder. You gotta.
It reminds me of I remember they were like saying, oh, we got J.J. Abrams to direct like the new Star Wars, and like it still was like not good at all. Like I don't think that's any fault of J.J. Abrams. I'm pretty sure Disney was just like, oh yeah, you gotta direct the script, but you can't change like most of it.
I don't know. He hasn't blown me away like with his original stuff, and I think there's a reason he's mostly done like franchise, like Mission Impossible, Star Trek, Star Wars. He's gonna, I don't know if he's directing it. I don't think he is, but he's producing like a Portal movie coming up.
Oh, really?
And the way he like handled the like Cloverfield franchise, it's just like I don't give him that much credit, honestly, myself.
I just don't think he's ever bombed as hard as like Star Wars 9. I think that's just gonna be the worst that will ever make, probably.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
He just kind of took that one to the bank, and he's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think he's worrying about it too much. He didn't take it too personally. He said in his interviews before the movie, like he was just like, for this one I just said fuck it. Like that's a quote he said for the movie, because he just didn't know how to fix it because they had no plan. Yeah. And anything he would have come up with would have just been like fine anyway. So it's just like
it was kind of like, well, who was it? What's his name? The guy who directed Avengers.
Joss Whedon?
Yeah, when he came in to do Justice League, but he came in like at the halfway point when it was already almost done.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, well, I'll just sprinkle some gold on the shit and maybe it'll look a little better.
I don't know. That one also, like, I don't give him too much credit for that one.
No,
bad examples.
Yeah, no.
But Paddington 3.
Yeah, Paddington 3.
Fortunately, not directed by J.J. Abrams. Gonna look forward to that.
All right.
In theaters. Something I just saw that I forgot was coming out this year is Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Yeah. That's coming out at the end of the year.
Hell yeah.
And that is something I'm very excited for. I'm very excited to see where he goes with that. And it's funny that we've just been talking about like franchises, because I feel like that's something all those studios do, or those franchises do. They never really like put a spotlight on the director, right? Like I couldn't tell you who directed like that first or that second Avengers movie, or like
Also Joss Whedon.
honestly, like any of them. Like it's,
but yeah, I get what you're saying. Most
or like
MCU.
that first Iron Man movie, or just like any of those like franchises. Like I just know, that's Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. Like, or even that Wonka movie. I have no idea who directed that, but it's
Paul
like
King,
supposed to be like a big.
Paddington.
Paddington.
Oh
directed.
yeah.
Paddington himself directed.
But I didn't know that till you just said something, right? Like I would have never known that unless you said something. But this is something that I'm really excited for, because Robert Eggers is just so consistent. I didn't see his last film, The Northman.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't see that. But obviously I've seen The Witch and The Lighthouse, and those two very much kind of blew me away, and I'm excited to see his take on this. It's him and Willem Dafoe, right?
No, that was like in the 2000s or something. It was
he already did that.
Yeah. Bill Skarsgård is this one.
Bill Skarsgård. Okay, yeah.
Sounds awesome.
He's becoming that new.
Oh wait, no, this one does have Willem Dafoe. He did play Nosferatu like a long time ago, but Willem Dafoe's still going to be in this.
Willem Dafoe is. I was about to say. I'm pretty sure he's still in it, but he's not.
He's somebody
else.
Nosferatu.
He's not Nosferatu. He's just there.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, all I've seen is it's just the cast and the director, and I'm excited to see what they do with this, and again, I think that just goes to the power of directing and being a good consistent director. Like I can just get excited and be interested in your movie without even really seeing anything from it. Just hearing, Robert Eggers doing a Nosferatu movie, fucking sign me up.
Yeah,
I'm down to see this. Like I gotta see this shit.
You were saying Bill Skarsgård's kind of becoming something like I think you're gonna say like the new kind of like monster guy.
Yeah, like that guy who
Doug
was
Jones?
in that's his name. He's in Shape of Water. He's Hellboy. He's basically becoming that kind of like the new him. Yeah.
That's what happens when you're like 6 foot and like super skinny.
And you're willing to sit in like a truck for like 10 hours for makeup.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one looks pretty good. I think that's the only ones I can think of that I'm actually like kind of excited for. So I'd say all the other sequels and remakes. They're making that Saw movie. What did I just see that was coming out? They're making like I don't know if you saw this. You hear about this? Fucking that what's the okay? Everyone's gonna get mad at me. I have never seen The Lion King. I don't know. I know Simba. I know who that is. That's the main character. His dad. I don't remember his name.
Mufasa?
Yeah, they're making a movie about him.
Oh, yeah, you told me that. I just was like, what are they going to do? Just like, is it just going to be how he became king?
I guess so.
By being born and then
being the king.
It's not complicated. They're lions.
Yeah. I don't.
It's just a way to like re-engineer like using him again. Then they'll definitely use like Scar, and they'll definitely use Zazu, the bird guy, again. They'll probably find a way to incorporate like Simone and Pumbaa. I'm sure.
Yeah, they'll be like, I don't know, babies or something. I don't know.
That sounds like Han Solo almost being in the prequels. Like, that would particularly like it's already going to be like a terrible project, but that
just sounds awful.
Is it going to be animated or live action again?
Well, I mean, obviously animated.
It has to be. It has to be.
It's
right?
still going to be animated. It was never live action.
I mean, It wasn't really live action.
CGI,
realistic CGI. I guess.
Yeah, it's gonna be realistic.
I guess live action.
Is it gonna be a realistic flying tiger?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be.
I would think it'd be animated, right? But they're not. Lord knows they're not gonna 2D animate that shit. Hell no. Because they've just sworn off that, I guess, for the rest of their lives.
Because Wish was amazing.
Yeah.
We don't need like that ever again.
Why 2D animate movies? That's stupid. It's not like we built our entire franchise and entire company built on that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's coming out. You see the new trailer for that new Alien movie?
I noticed it.
Okay.
I I saw like a picture. I also did not watch it.
I'm not going to lie. I'm maybe that's how they get people to watch these movies. They just find people who have like nostalgia bait. I will watch it. I will literally only watch it because I liked Alien growing up. I watched like
what's it called? It's like Alien Rhombus or something.
Romulus.
Romulus. Yeah,
I watched like I watched like all those Alien movies, like, even like Prometheus and all of that. And only reason I kind of want to watch it is I do think it looks slightly better than like the past 3 Alien movies that have come out.
When was the last one that came out?
2017.
Covenant.
Oh.
Yeah. It looks like it's It looks like they're trying a little bit harder in this trailer.
I mean, they didn't show much of anything. I mean, like, I feel like they've always looked nice, at least in the trailers. But by the time they like came out, they showed more of their hand, and it was just like shooting that alien in broad daylight and only using CG. It's like
it's like just from like the directing style of the trailer, like even the style of the trailer felt different than the other trailers I've seen. Like the other trailers, I'm like, yeah, that looks like copy and paste. They're not gonna try at all. But just like it seemed like maybe they're gonna try to do some stylistic change, but probably not.
This is the first one not directed by Ridley Scott, like since I guess what was the fourth one called with the newborn?
I know.
Resurrection. I think that was the last Alien movie, not counting the Alien versus Predator movies. But Ridley Scott did Prometheus and the last one, the Revenant, Alien Revenant. What's it called?
Covenant.
Covenant.
Yeah.
And this.
Don't worry. I've only seen the first 2 Alien movies and Alien vs Predator 2.
But yeah, this one's being directed.
No, I was about to say you should watch the first.
Or whichever one has like the pyramid.
That's
and it's
that's the first one.
Okay, no, I have seen the first one. Then
yeah,
I was like,
no, don't watch Requiem. No.
Yeah, they had like some pyramid, and they're like fighting over the pyramid for some reason, and it's just like all these predators. Like, we gotta hunt the alien because it's like it's the most deadly thing in the galaxy.
I mean, Alien vs Predator is fine.
Like that.
It's not bad. It's like literally the only ones you need to watch is 1, 2, and AVP, and that's it.
And the ones I've seen.
But yeah, this one's being directed by the guy who did the Evil Dead remake and Don't
really?
Breathe. Yeah. So I mean, maybe it'll at least be kind of fun, not take itself so like dead serious, like all pseudo intellectual philosophical, but like nothing makes actual sense, and it's just ruins everything good about like what made Alien scary in the first place. Like it, even if it's just like a really solid like monster slasher, I think it'll probably be fine.
You said Evil Dead, and I was like on board, but then you said like he directed Don't Breathe, and I watched that, and I didn't really like it at all.
Which one was that? Was that the old man?
Yeah,
he's like
blind guy, and he just happens to be like a Navy SEAL or something.
Like Navy SEAL person.
But like it turns out like he's like to make him less, I guess, I don't know. To add an antagonist, he just also happens to be like a crazy, like bad, unhinged person, who's like doing up to no good before they even got there. Like yeah, it was really boring. It's like on the same level as like Ma.
Oh boy.
Gonna make me drink alone.
Yeah, Ma's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is true.
All right, I don't know if there's any others coming out this year.
That's Furiosa. Yeah.
Eh.
I quite like the first
that's the Mad Max continuation, right?
Yeah. I just watched that like very recently, like last year, and I really want to watch the rest of them before that comes out. It's still George Miller, so I think it'll probably be alright.
Do the new ones have anything to do with the old Mel Gibson ones?
Very loosely.
They kind of just recast everyone, and you're supposed to like.
It's basically the same world,
pretty much,
just rebooted and recast.
Well, not even rebooted, but like. I think it's like completely restyled.
I was about to say, because it's not. Is it like a continuation of those?
I'm pretty sure it is in the same franchise. It's just so many years now that it's like we can't get Mel Gibson, but we'll still make a Mad Max movie.
It's just restyled. Because I watched the original Mad Max and Mad Max Fury Road around the same time, and like they're very different, like in tone, like in like pacing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like Fury Road's like extremely like just action, like the first like 5 minutes. Like pretty much all the way to the end, and like the first Mad Max is like pretty tame.
Okay.
But both are good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
For this year.
Yeah, not really much. I'm sure there'll be like a Past Lives or something like that comes out or gets released that looks interesting that I'd go see and probably will be good. But as far as like major notable releases, I guess that's really it. And god damn, there's nothing. Wow, slim pickings this year. But yeah, if that's it for kind of most anticipated things, the next thing we were gonna talk about is me and Daniel have seen Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
With Timothée Chalamet, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Again, you don't mind that we.
No, I don't
say
care.
anything?
I can say my thoughts on it without spoiling.
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, without like spoiling too many big details. First off, I really liked this movie. Yeah. I really liked it. I think it benefited from me, and I recommended this to anybody who's gonna go watch it. Watch the first one and then go see it, because they literally pick up right where the last one, like literally like a second after, quite literally. With them getting attacked by the and I'm gonna do this the whole time we talk about this. I don't remember any of their. I am terrible with names, like absolutely the worst. I'm gonna keep referring them as the black dudes, or like or Timothée Chalamet's crew or something like that, because I can't remember all these damn names. But yeah, the Harkonnens, you said, right?
The bald ones, right?
Yeah, the bald.
Okay,
bald maybe bald dudes a little better. The black guys, the bald dudes, the Harkonnens, and them getting attacked, right closely after they get with the water people, whatever.
Fremen.
The Fremens. Right after they get to the Fremens, and man, god damn, Denis Villeneuve just knows how to do sci-fi. He just knows what it takes to make it feel like alien, but also familiar at the same time. Yeah. Where I'm looking like those guys, man. Oh man, and that opening shot with those the Harkonnen floating up on to the rock to get away from the worms, beautiful, 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 and just the way everything looks and it is set up. Like I said, he knows how to make it feel recognizable and understandable, but also alien at the same time. Yeah. Like anytime the Fremen die, because a lot of them get stabbed because you can't really make noise because of the the little sandworms. There's a little detail. Anytime someone gets stabbed or gets stabbed through their suit, all the water from the suit comes out because it's a suit that's regenerating your water and preserving and circulating it. So it makes sense that they'll get stabbed and all the water comes out. And it's just stuff like that where he knows how to like kind of work it and make it feel like a world, make it feel like a whole different other world.
Yeah, and like
here, hold on. Just obviously cut this part out.
But yeah, I love the way just like really good sci-fi mirrors reality in a way that's like kind of the Fremen representing a lot of like Middle Eastern traditions and like the way the way the war is waged on like just resources. That's just like, well, if you're sitting on top of it, you're kind of just like screwed.
I mean, yeah, if you know anything about history at all, that's like literally any kind of like indigenous group, if they're sitting on something they another like kingdom or something wants, they're just gonna go in there and like fuck you over and take it. And that's something that, again, like, not obviously people can't relate to living on a giant, sand planet with like fucking big ass worms, but they can relate to being marginalized and being oppressed over fucking mundane money shit. And just like that's like what I'm really kind of hooked on is the visuals and the writing. The kind of writing of, and I know obviously that has a lot to do with the book because the book came first, but like you said, all the like Middle Eastern, but there's also a lot of Christian, overtones, and it's kind of a mix of like Muhammad and Jesus. Because I mean, he literally comes back to life, like literally, that's literally what he does. And I like that fusion, basically to make it kind of its own thing too, because they take elements, but they don't. It's not just like a 1-to-1, like kind of retelling of those stories. They just take elements from it and use it to make kind of a prophecy type character.
Yeah, it's
And,
it's been a while since we've had like a solid good one of those like the prophets, because it's such a like hackneyed thing nowadays.
yeah.
Because it's especially hard because like Dune influenced so many things already, so it's like the circular like, well,
Speaking of that,
anything that could be cliche, it's just like, well, it came out before most of what it influenced.
Those books came out like late 70s, early 80s. And it's funny, I saw a clip recently that if you know the show Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, they've referenced Dune, and that show came out in like the early 2000s. And it's funny, I remember that joke from they do like a talent show of some sort. The principal's like yelling out all their like talents and stuff, and then they get to this one girl, and he literally just says, "Oh, Haib," and then she has like her hand in the box. She's like, "Hi, Burns." And I'm just like, man, I remember that joke like being a kid, and I just remember just being so confused and not really knowing what that is. And little side note, that whole show is really funny and has like a lot of humor like that. They reference talking heads in that show too.
Yeah.
Where it's like Grimm and he's like saying, "Oh, this is not me beautiful wife. This is not me beautiful house."
Yeah.
And then like it's like Billy and he's just like, "Oh, same as it ever was. Same as it ever was."
A lot of
and it's just like
horror, just like slipped in there like Hellraiser. Like, how did you manage that?
Yeah, and what kid would get this? Like, why? Like, no kid, even at the time, no kid would know what that is.
I honestly feel like they're just like riffing in the studio, and they're like, "Oh, just put that in."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because no one would get it anyways, I guess. But yeah, and it's funny that's all that's coming out now because Dune is a big influence on a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I guess it's kind of cool to see it finally be in like kind of the public eye, and because now I'm seeing posts about it, like obviously memes and stuff. I saw this one video of I don't know if you know who Badlands Chugs is. He's like drinking this giant. He's like I don't know what to describe it as, more of like a chugger, I guess. He just chugs giant liquids of stuff like Mountain Dew and like Sprite. He had this big one of like some blue Mountain Dew, and someone said, "When I get like the water of life from Dune," he just drinks it all. And I mean, I think that's what's so good about the movie is the visuals, and that people can do that. They can kind of associate those visuals with the movie, and I think that's just what I think the movie does so well is those visuals, is kind of the look of everything, the obviously, like I said, the water of life, and the Fremen's culture and the clothes that they're wearing, even the environments that they're in. When the Space Emperor fucking comes at the end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, his spaceship is just this grand giant like crystal ball. Like if I was like a Fremen, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's like an important guy, like that guy, that there's someone fucking important in that shit, because it just looks that way, like visually.
Yeah, I mean the first one I gave it more leeway because it was like I really want to read those books, but like from what I've heard, a lot of people said that like, yeah, I mean the first movie is dry because I feel and this is just like, again, like just by hearsay, they cut out a lot of like philosophical stuff going on in the book that just like kind of only works in a book. And I've read a lot of books recently, like Annihilation or like Charlie Kaufman's Ant Kind, where it's like they have these concepts that are so insanely specific. That's like in Annihilation, there's a part where the characters can't decide if a structure is a tower or a tunnel. And that's just so crazy. I haven't seen the movie yet, but like there's no way that's in it. Like there's just no way. I've never heard anyone talk about that because that's so specific to the book. And I felt the first movie, it kind of took a lot of the punch out of it because there's just like certain things that are just like way too descriptive that you just like, that I really want to get into. And it's great that the movies, are interesting enough to make me want to learn more about it. But yeah, it's like, this one really, Dune Part 2 really picks up the pace, and it's like, okay, it justifies everything that like happened in the first one. I still feel like it could have been paced better if it's like, okay, if you're gonna cut out a lot of this like kind of deep thinking stuff that's like way more cerebral than can be reasonably like, distributed for like a wide audience, which I understand, then you gotta like, actually like structurally make it to where I've heard people say that it probably might have been a good idea if they just like combined both of these movies into like 4 hours, or like just put a little bit more of like this one into the first one and cut out like a lot of like kind of the dead air. because if this is the part of the story where like things are
picking
rolling
up.
now.
This is where the action is,
Yeah.
and I mean, I remember us. Obviously, we didn't have the podcast back then, but you know, when that first Dune movie came out, I remember us talking about it, and one of the things we both said was that first movie just felt like complete setup. Like it was just a lot of build up, so you could see the next movie. But there's still, don't get me wrong, there's still some good stuff in that first Dune movie.
Yeah.
The whole philosophy of them moving, the whole action at the end, obviously when they get basically the
House Atreides.
The House Atreides get wiped. I was literally gonna say the House of Timothy Chalamet or Chalamet. House of Chalamet fucking gets wiped out, and that was all interesting. But and then it just kind of dead stops kind of at the end, like, oh well. This is literally Zendaya says that in the movie. This is only the beginning.
It's still so annoying.
Yeah, that's still a little bit.
It's not like a deal breaker, but that's just so lame.
It's like more like a pet peeve kind of thing. Like, might as well have just said, looked at the camera, and she said, "To be continued."
Just look at the camera. Like Dune 2, like in theaters, like
in 2024, March 1st.
Honest to God, would have been like better if they just stopped mid sentence, because at least it would have been some kind of commentary on like, well, it's not over, and we don't know how to conclude this. It's literally just like I don't know.
But because it immediately picks up where the last one ended, and immediately gets into the action of them getting hunted by the Harkonnens, and them running to the Fremen safe house, wherever the hell that is, or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
and then they take a minute to like breathe, but then they kind of get right back into him trying to kind of be a Fremen and learning from them and cultivating. One of the standouts, and I know a lot of people are talking about like Timothy Chalamet, and he's good in this movie, but I think the one who stole it for me was Austin Butler as the Harkonnen dude.
Okay, first name I don't.
God, I could not tell you. I really can't. I'm sorry. Again,
James Charles.
Terrible names, yeah. But Austin Butler character.
Fade Raltha.
And
Raltha.
See, look, and this is my first problem with the first movie, dude. You got this guy and like the Harkonnens and all these other crazy names, and this the main character's fucking name is Paul. Like Paul, like really? You couldn't come up with like I don't know, like just something else.
No,
like everyone else
not
got
even
like
Paul, like as like Paul like Smith or something. It's like Paul like
Atreides. Like Atreides is like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds like a royal name. But like,
I mean, to be fair, that's very akin to the first Star Wars, where it's like Han, Leia. Not really common names, and then
Vader,
Luke, which is like
Luke.
and he's kind of like the most normal person besides Ben Kenobi, I guess. But that's
that's
Obi-Wan.
His name Obi-Wan.
I think Luke is pretty much the only like average guy name.
I guess maybe that's just a thing. You gotta have like a readable
for
name
the main,
for your main
protagonist.
character, I guess. And it's funny that you say that, because I do kind of compare this a little bit to those first two Star Wars movies, because. Mm-hmm. That New Hope is like a lot of build up, and then there's a big action piece at the end, but then Empire Strikes Back is just mostly action. It's mostly them going from planet to planet, kind of running around trying to stop the Empire, and then this big kind of cliffhanger ending. Yeah, it was cliffhanger ending at the end, like part 2.
That's what I love so much about part 2, is that the ending, while it is like, it leaves me like wanting more. Not that this wasn't satisfying, but like it leaves me wanting to like continue the story, because I know there are more books, and like I totally agree with Denis, where he's like, I need a breather after this. I want to like make something completely different after this. I think that's a great idea, but like I think this is the first like thing in a while where it's like I really want more of this, and this movie does have like a really like powerful conclusion that makes me want to rewatch the first one like all over again. Yeah, because like when that one came out, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna watch this again like until like right when Dune Part 2 comes out, and I did. Like I waited for the day to see it, like just like 10 minutes before I was gonna see Part 2, and that was the best way to consume it. It was right
definitely.
after.
And I mean, I think that goes into one of my favorite things about both these movies that Denis Villeneuve does. It just feels so natural. It literally just feels like I'm watching just like 3 or 4 episodes of a show like just back to back, because it just feels so congruent. Because I know just movies can feel so, especially if they're planning on making sequels, they can feel so secular, so like
segmented.
Yeah, segmented. Like even bring up against Star Wars, like literally at the end of the first Star Wars movie, they like get medals and celebrate like they already defeated the Empire.
I mean,
like no, but it still sets up or leaves it open for sequels. But with these movies, it just feels like one after the other, and like it doesn't feel. It feels like they all flow together. Like again, that first Dune movie just feels like the first 3 episodes of a show. And then these next ones just feel like I just watched another 3 episodes, and now I'm waiting for the next 3 episodes to come out.
Yeah, I think there's a place for conclusive movies that are still part of like a big franchise. Like back when the MCU had a plan, they did that pretty well. You know, like obviously not all of them were great, but like I liked how they were mostly their own things up until a certain point where it's just like, well, now they're very intertwined where it's like you can't like not be thinking about it even if you haven't like seen this other stuff. But yeah, like I do think that first one still needs some kind of combination between like Dune Part 2 and 1 to where it would make that one more satisfying and like conclusive and like get you excited to see the next one and not just like, well, I mean I literally just paused the movie and then I unpaused it
yeah
and it led somewhere great. I'll give it that. It's just as a movie by itself, Kill Bill Part 1, it's like there's obviously so much more left to do, but it's a great first movie.
Yeah, like something like that again that just feels like a natural continuation. And in the first movie or in, the previous movie itself, there's not like this kind of cut off like, oh, it's over, but, we're probably going to make more. It just feels like there's just so few movies that feel like that, especially franchises that they just flow so naturally into each other and kind of just feel like one giant movie. But I think that's kind of the only way you can do a story like this.
Yeah.
Where you take like a big epic book or a comic book or whatever and kind of stretch it out because there's a lot to jam from just one book. And it's funny because I also watched the David Lynch Dune a little bit after I watched Dune 2 because my friends were just so Dune pilled and they wanted more. I'm like, hey, you know what, and they had a David Lynch one, let's watch that. And while that one was a little more creative and a little more kind of out there with a lot of the more like there's these like group of alien people that all like pilot the ships, but they're the only ones who can do it, and that's how space travel works in this world. That's like not in the other Dune movies like at all, but it's in the David Lynch one. And like he uses a lot of those more kind of out there, which makes sense, a little more out there like ideas like from the book, but it also kind of feels like everything's like compressed, and because that movie is not all that long, it's like 2 hours 15 minutes I think, 2 hour 20, and it just feels like a speed run almost, kind of. So I'd really much prefer something like what Denis Villeneuve did, something that like flows and that's a little more stretched out and feels more natural going than trying to kind of cram everything into like 2 hours.
Yeah,
and
it earns the length. It's more so the not format. I don't know. I mean, I think if they wanted to make it a TV show, that would have been completely justified because like Game of Thrones, like that entire first season and like most of the seasons are dedicated to one entire book, and it's like, I couldn't imagine this in a single movie. Like you can't do this in 3 hours.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's why I've always thought specifically like comic books work way better in shows. I feel like unless you're doing like a big event like Infinity War or something like that's more of like a movie. But just doing like a singular character or something like that, I thought always worked way better as a show. Just because, comic books came out in issues.
Yeah.
They came out in issues, which just like episodes, and you make 2 or 3 issues into one episode, you can get something out of that instead of, again, trying to cram this whole history of just one character into fucking 2 hours. But yeah, really like the way he directed this movie. I feel like nobody else could have done this besides Denis Villeneuve, and he just gets it. He gets how to do it. And one of my favorite parts of that movie, and again, this is why I'm just so harped on the visuals, is the part where they go to the Harkonnens planet,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the black sun, and everything's, black and white and looks fucking nuts.
Uh-huh.
But, like, I'm understanding what's going on. Like, I'm understanding, he's the king of this fucking world, and that's obviously, like, or they say it's his nephew, and he's like the second person in charge, and, they're in this big coliseum. And I really liked that scene where those fucking witch bitches, I don't remember what they were called.
The Bene Gesserits?
Yeah, the Bene Gesserits.
That's one of my favorite Dune words. It's the most, it almost, repulses me from, wanting to learn more, because I'm just going to become that guy.
That's the thing I like about it, and I guess it's more credit to the writer of the book. They don't sound like fake names. They sound like real, okay, this is probably what someone in 1,000 years, when we have 50 planets and space travel, that this is what they'd probably name something like that. That sounds weird. That's why the main character we named Paul is still just so damn, you really couldn't think of another name, because of all these other cool names that sound very natural and very within the world. But I like the scene where they come into the stadium, and they usually dress in all black,
mm-hmm.
but when they go into the light, since it's a black and white world that they're living in, they turn to white when they're in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought just man, he's got to win something for visual effects for the Oscars next year. There's literally no one else can, I don't even care that we're only 3 months into the year. Nothing else is going to compare to that.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nothing. Almost nothing I've ever watched compares to that, honestly. Obviously, except maybe Blade Runner or I don't know, maybe Jaws. The shark looks cool in that one. But yeah,
that's
just
quite a jump.
yeah. I know, but
yeah, I get it.
Just that type of effects to make it look that genuine and look that good. I'm confident to say I'll probably not see anything as visually stunning as that movie for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because in the first movie it's really good, but he just ramps it up to 100 in the second one, especially when the ending with the spaceship coming down and then all the worms coming out and the big fight at the end. It all just looks, and I was never taken out of it at all, even with the 2-hour 50-minute run, almost 3-hour runtime.
I didn't feel it at all.
I almost did not feel it at all. I felt a little bit at the end when he finally confronts the Emperor, and they kind of go on this long spiel,
mm-hmm.
and then he's got to fight Austin Butler, and then
mm-hmm.
he's got to talk to him more, and then he goes over to Zendaya and talks to her. I'm like, okay, come on,
But I mean,
honestly, but other than that, and that's the last fucking 20 minutes of the movie.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, and that was really it. All the other time of the movie just flew by for me, and I think that was just a testament to the writing and to the directing. And
I mean,
don't get me wrong, I think Timothée Chalamet was good in the role. Same thing with Zendaya. I just don't think they were the most standout, because I know that's what a lot of people are talking about. I just don't think they were the most standout things about that movie. I think there were a lot more things that made that movie work.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they made it work with their performances, but without the vision of Denis Villeneuve, I don't think you have this movie at all.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes longer than the first one, but that first one feels so much longer, because this one it's just in service of so much more, and I feel like I can buy the relationships a lot more than I could the first one.
Mm-hmm.
You got to see a lot more development and kind of people hitting it off initially, and it growing through the course of the movie, compared to we House Atreides, we establish who their friends are and family members are, but it's still kind of just more implied than something I get kind of emotional over whenever someone dies.
But I also get that because they were gonna die eventually anyways, so I'm assuming he just didn't want to spend too much time.
I mean,
kind of building them up.
I mean, Game of Thrones, it's you can do that, you know?
The
inevitability for a lot of those characters.
It's easier to do that in a show than it is to a movie. Especially if in an hour they're all going to be fucking eliminated, decimated, literally.
But I mean, Lord of the Rings too, a lot of deaths. I mean, in that first one, it's just you get his family
mm-hmm.
dynamic even after and before he dies. But I just feel it's not impossible to get me to care about
mm-hmm.
characters, and they did their job. They were serviceable, but it's just like there's something missing from that first
Yeah,
one.
that's
That
true.
is
because
that
like,
is
one of the only other standouts besides obviously Timothée Chalamet and his mother is Oscar Isaac as
his dad.
His dad. He does a really good job, and they do a really good job at kind of setting him up as like, I don't know, just kind of like the black sheep of this whole like galactic empire, like. And he talks about it how like they kind of don't. No one kind of likes them. Like they're kind of like the butt of this whole world. You know, kind of getting just the shit flakes and the scraps from everybody. And so him being excited for, or I guess not excited is the right word, but
feeling honored.
Yeah, to take over
this.
the Dune fucking planet. But not realizing, obviously, that it's just set up to fail. They set them up to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one, in Dune Part 2, I felt like there was so much more, even with, like, characters I didn't initially care about, like Gurney, Josh Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could believe their relationship so much more.
Yeah.
Whenever he hadn't seen him in so long, and he, like, came back, and he's, like, happy to see him, and, like, you know, they talk about the different paths they went
Mm-hmm.
in between, like... Since they'd seen each other, it's just like there's something there that wasn't. It didn't
yeah.
feel present in the first one.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like pretty much every character is made up for from that first one. Like Javier Bardem's character too. He's like him being a fanatic for him. It's like he was. It's like he was being professional when they first introduced him, and then like when he opens up, you really get to know him a lot more, and it adds so much to him.
Yeah, and that, again, I think that just goes to the writing. I really like just his kind of people have this kind of split, and it is really against, and it's kind of like how kind of people are now. You know, the old people are very religious and what's the word I'm looking for?
Fanatical or like
when you believe in a lot of superstitious. It's very superstitious, but like, you know, the younger people, they're like, you know, fucking God's not real. Fuck that. You know, hell no. You know, I'm not. You're gonna go in there and drink fucking worm piss, and they call it the water of life.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I like that concept in there, and just the whole, like you said, kind of him becoming the fanatic of him, and kind of slowly creeping into everybody else. But I like how it's presented, because at least I got the sense that it definitely were presented like this was not a good thing. This is not like a good thing that is happening. Like, this is very much a like this shit's gonna this is about to get horrible. And I like that whole build up, because usually in, you know, these movies it's easy to go with the prophecy, the chosen one, you know, he's the good guy and he's to come in and save everybody, and that's how they talk about him. But the way they present it is really just this. Oh, this is like impending doom.
Yes, yeah.
Like this is really bad. Like some horrible shit is gonna happen, and it's not gonna be pretty.
That's another thing I love about sci-fi and fantasy. They do this in Game of Thrones too, where it's like their religions and like exploration of magic. That first season is very void of fantastical elements, and like they're barely dragons at the end. But they set it up in a way where it's like a lot of this stuff was just happening in history, and like those like dark ages with the castles and knights. It was like medieval times. It was just, most of this is just like as horrible as it was in real life. And then when magic stuff starts happening, you can see why people are doubting it. But it's also like really worrying, and whenever you do see it working, and like some of it is real, some of it is superstition, and it's kind of like this like really scary and complicated mix of like truth and lies and manipulation, and people who do have like a goal for this and like truly believe, and other people who are just kind of like coasting along for like the perks of like of being part of this religion that gets results, and not really like,
and I mean,
because
you know, that's the whole thing with the Josh Brolin character. You know, he's not really into the whole religious prophecy, El Ha-Shaib kind of thing. He's more just kind of into it to kind of get back on top, not in like a selfish way, but in I like this kid. This is my, you know, best friend's kid. You know, I want to support him, and I want to get him to where I think he rightfully belongs. Yeah, and yeah, just like the whole different views of that, and you know, Zendaya's whole character of kind of him, and I think that was kind of representative at the end. Like, she was more representative of his kind of the last little bits of his human side.
Yeah.
That's not the Ilha Shaib, just the normal Paul Atreides, like, you know, son of a I don't know, what was he, like an emperor, like I guess like a, what do you call him, like governor or something.
Yeah.
The son of House Atreides, and I think that was emblematic at the end of him kind of cutting that off. Like I'm completely Il Shaib now. At the end, you know, I need to become this thing because Anya Taylor-Joy told me to. But yeah. So, solid writing, solid everything. It's just a really good movie. I have not a whole lot of bad thing to say about it, except I guess it dragged at. For me, it kind of dragged at the last 20 minutes, but.
Sorry, I didn't really say anything. Just
I mean, you haven't seen the movie, so I mean, we're not really expecting you to.
You're talking about Austin Butler and like Javier Bardem. I unless I'm crazy. Like Batista's in that movie, right?
Yeah.
How is he?
He's kind of just there, honestly. But I mean, that's his kind of character, though. He's more just like
a soldier.
Yeah, he's kind of just. I mean, he's like the he's also a nephew of the Harkonnens guy. Mm-hmm. The big king guy, the guy that floats, the big fat guy that floats. Yeah. Which also looks really cool, just the way he kind of gets up, and it doesn't even really explain how he does it, but it shows you visually that, oh, okay, so he's got like a thing in his spine that like picks him up, and that's kind of how he does it without even really saying anything. But yeah, he's in it, but he's just kind of the angry nephew that's just kind of out for blood. That's really it. Like I said, like to me it was more Austin Butler and Javier. I never noticed it. Yeah, him.
Stilgar.
And again, don't get me wrong, Timothée Chalamet still does a great job, and Zendaya's pretty good in it too. Honestly, one of the more better things I've seen her in. But to me, those were the real performances of that movie. Mm-hmm. To me, I guess my only other gripe is that they didn't give the Austin Butler character much more time. I feel like they had a good setup, they had a good introduction, and they even had a good kind of story with him going, but it kind of didn't really show him too much, I feel like. And then he, you know, fights Paul at the end, and that's really it. Like,
I think he did just about it. Like,
I just feel like he could have been not I guess the main villain, but a big villain. And they introduced him like halfway through the movie. I just feel like maybe they could have pushed that up and have him kind of be throughout the movie and be more of like a presence. It really feels like they show him out. They introduce him in the middle of the movie, and then he finally comes in at the last 3/4, and then that's it.
Is it? I was gonna say it kind of sounds like is it like a Darth Maul situation where he like just shows up halfway through.
I say better than that.
He has way more development.
Because he has way more development.
He's not just his weapon.
Yeah, but I think it is kind of like that in a way.
Ignoring
like
the Clone Wars, you Clone Wars.
Yeah, obviously all the good writing.
Like within the movie, he's introduced. Yeah. They give him a character, and he's successfully threatening by himself and has. But I'd say
he's like slightly in it more than Maul, but he gets more like development time.
All right.
That's the thing. He's only in there slightly, and I mean Maul wasn't really in that first movie a whole lot.
I wasn't really like starved for him by the end. I feel like he really made an impression. Yeah. So I
guess that's the thing for me. I was just so impressed with him over Timothée Chalamet that I was kind of wanting more of him, honestly. Because and maybe it's also because I saw a lot of stuff before I went to go see it about him being like, oh, greatest movie villain ever.
Yeah, one true. Of the best if you go in with those expectations, it'll be weird. It's kind of like Jared Leto being advertised everywhere for Blade Runner 2049. It's not really about him. It's not really about him. He kind of gets things. He kind of gets things started.
Yeah,
and he's in it a little bit, but he's not like the greatest villain. He's not the most interesting part of that movie. That's for sure. But I would say for me, like, again, I don't know if it's different from the books, but the way the mom kind of approached the religious angle, where it's like she kind of just blatantly says like, we're gonna prey on the weakest of them first, and then like get everyone to turn to my son as the ruler. And it's like, I don't know, like I feel like there's a better way to, because like in real life people they don't like sound so evil. And I know it's a sci-fi movie, but like it's not so. Yeah. There's a more clever way to do this.
I think it was implied a lot that I guess with the liquid she drank, it gave the baby telepathy.
I believe,
and so she would talk through the mom. It's some kind of weird like sci-fi shit like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry to bring up like Game of Thrones again, but that does a really good job like selling this character who really believes in what they believe, and like they're doing like heinous things in order to appease their god in their mind, and like to other people it's like yeah, you know, they see it for what it is. Yeah. But like you do genuinely believe that she believes what she's doing, and like yeah, there are like it's not like a complete fabrication, the fact that, you know, he's able to do all this like crazy stuff and like fulfilling this prophecy, but it just kind of seems kind of like, how do I get on top, as opposed to like I really want to see how they do it in the book, because I want to hear what it's like for a fanatic to like actually like spread this word about this prophecy in a way that's it's a little bit more like grounded and like able to it's more like, scary that way, because it's like
something not so like in your face like I'm gonna get everyone to believe in my son now. Yeah, like
it's more kind of her
hands. She just like needs to like rub her hands together.
Yeah,
and but I get that. Yeah. But that's really what was I had to really say about it. Good, solid, great sequel.
Yeah.
Honestly, a modern like sci-fi. I said this in my review. Modern sci-fi epic. I called it, and I really do believe in that. And I think it's more kind of like a Star Wars on it. Almost like this sci-fi property that just everyone can get really into, and that's just very well written, and the world is very believable, and you can easily get sunk into it. And that's really what I found myself in during the whole movie.
Yeah, it's nice. The 70s and 80s had a Star Wars, 2000s pretty much like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, and this I'm glad the 20s has their thing.
Yeah, they do.
Where it's like this. I'm excited to see what you know comes in the future, but like this
especially
basically owns the 20s right now.
And especially if you don't know that they're mostly just doing the first book.
Yeah,
there's like a bunch of other books that they could really do and kind of make this go a little bit longer, and I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
But you know, I really have faith in this third movie that he's gonna make, just because these last two were just so good, and I think that first movie is definitely enhanced by the second one.
Yes.
Like having a second one definitely makes it worth having like a verse movie.
It's arguably not a movie.
Yeah,
the first one.
Yeah, this should be like the next franchise that just like has like 10 movies for no reason.
Yeah.
Like Jason X.
I mean, they're already talking about making like a Acolyte spinoff, and they're gonna have a game too. So, yeah, we're at the dawn of a brand new franchise. It's gonna have 1,000 things in it, and only like 5% of it's gonna be good. But I'm ready for that third Dune movie. I'm very excited for it. Yeah.
The third one's gonna have like an end credits like Easter egg or something.
Thanos.
Yeah, basically.
It's just gonna be Gurney, Josh Brolin.
All right, you want to give a rating real quick?
Yeah, I gave the first one a 6, and just to be safe, because I really want to read that book. But for now, I think it's a really, really insanely high 7. It's gonna be an 8 one day. I know.
Okay.
It's only because I watched it like once, and there's certain things like tonally about it that I feel like could have been presented a little bit better, and like just like more subtle, and you know, it seems like the book would serve that, but you know, it could like just like one, you know, straw that breaks the camel's back, and it's gonna be an 8, like, you know, very soon, I bet.
Yeah. Well, I'm basically just like a point above you for both of them. I think I gave the first one like a 7, and then this one I'd probably give like an 8, and it'd probably be like a high 8, closer to a 9 than a 7, because I was just especially again having the benefit of watching the first one, and we literally like timed it to where we watched it after the movie ended, we caught up, drove all the way to the theater, literally sat down, and the movie started. The second one started. So we literally watched them quite literally back to back, and I just got so much satisfaction out of that, and that was so like satisfying. And then just the second one visually with the acting and the story just a lot better than well, not a lot better, but like a good amount better than that first one. So I'd have to go with like an 8, just a solid 8. Really, really solid movie.
Yeah.
Then we want to go into this recommendation that was given last time by our boy Daniel here. Chan is Missing from what year was that?
1982.
1982. Shit, goddamn. I mean, it felt like a kind of an older movie, not because of the black and white, but just I'm gonna again forget most people's names here. I know Joe, that's the old guy. I always forget his little younger friend. I forget his name, but
Steve.
He has that like 80s kind of late 70s like hair, like where it's kind of like how mine's like slicked back right now, but it's like not slick. It's like kind of like divoted in the middle. It's just weird. It's just like how people used to wear their hair back then.
But yeah, Chan is Missing.
Chan is Missing.
Directed by Wayne Wang, is about 2 cabbies looking for their friend who disappeared with their $4,000. So they're asking around all over Chinatown, everyone he's been in contact with, the things he's been up to, and like seem to contradict other people's stories. And basically through their investigation, or mainly Joe's investigation, because Steve kind of loses interest pretty early on, but Joe looking for his friend, you get this kind of like synecdoche representing a larger whole of like, even though there's a lot of things about Chan himself that by the end of the movie is like he's kind of an unknowable guy, because like he was very complicated and he wasn't like honest to a lot of people. You do get to know the people in Chinatown, and
it's funny that this is labeled kind of like a mystery or like a thriller, because I don't really see it like that. I see it more as like almost like a character study of like a city or like a kind of like a political movie almost.
Yeah.
Because it's more the focus on the politics and kind of living in that area. And this is San Francisco. It's like the only 2 places like very well known for having Chinatowns, New York and San Francisco. And this is more of like a study on the people there, if anything. Because you don't even really get an answer at the end, not really. Because he doesn't really like find anything out or what happened to them. They get their money because that's what's kind of driving the plot, and they get it at the end. But you don't really get a conclusive answer of what the fuck happened to him, because it's more of like a study on the people there and kind of a study on the guy that they're looking for.
Also,
And
I was gonna say also like a study on kind of like what they're told. Like Steve kind of doesn't really acknowledge it because he's young and kind of just arrogant, but like I like how Joe like how every time Joe walks away from like interaction, he's like, he's thinking about what that guy said.
Like, he's more thoughtful, and I just love the dynamic between these 2 guys. You actually don't see that a lot, like because usually you have like, if you have like an old guy and a younger guy, it's usually like a master student kind of thing, or like a father. They're just kind of like friends.
Yeah.
And they just kind of like fuck around with each other. Just one's super old and short, and one's like a taller, like younger guy. And there's a couple of things in this movie I don't really see in like anything else. Is that dynamic and then the dialogue in this movie. Oh my God. Like it really sounds like they're just fucking talking to each other.
Yeah.
They're just like bullshitting. And if you, I really like that type of dialogue. If you've ever seen Dr. Katz, or I think that's what it's called, or you've seen Home Movies, that first season of Home Movies, where everything just sounds so natural, like they're just having a conversation, and I always get a little tickle out of that, because it just sounds so authentic and mundane.
The director, he said that the main 2 characters, Joe and Steve, were kind of the only ones that were portrayed as like, with actors pretty much. And everyone else, he obviously had a script and he gave them lines, but he told them to play it like themselves. And that takes it so far because I feel like I've met like every single one of these people in some way because they're just being themselves. You don't need professional actors.
I love that first conversation where it's Joe and him and then that girl. I think it was like his sister or something like that. And they're just talking about bullshit. They talk about like this guy that was like down the street that's like he's like, oh, is he Japanese or Chinese or. And they just talk about shit like that. Or that conversation they have with the cook in the back when they go to the Chinese restaurant. And he's just like, oh, these stupid tourists. They all want egg rolls or wonton soup. That's all they eat, and that's all they get. And that's another thing I like about this movie, that they shift perspectives a lot. They, whether you're seeing it through whoever they're talking with, or you're seeing it through who just somebody who's just in the building. Like when they go into the Chinese restaurant, you see a lot from like the waiters, and they're not really in focus. They're kind of in the back. You just see them kind of lingering in the background because you're in the eyes of like the waiter waiting the table. And I thought stuff like that was very interesting and a good way to present stuff.
Yeah, thought the political points that were like brought up were really well done, and like listening to the director's interview afterwards, it was like I like how he had the goal of like kind of approaching it in a like, yes, this stuff happened. They even bring it up in the movie itself. It's like, yeah, like racism and the way they see Chinatown compared to the rest of the city is like that happens all the time, but it's so much more subtle and like, yeah, just like people from day to day, like reacting to it in a way that's like, well, that's kind of annoying. And like just the way they talk to each other it feels like conversations I have in real life. Things are so poisoned by the internet now that it's like it feels like it's always a nightmare, but you can talk about these things in a way that's like that kind of just like leaves things like, okay, I just put my point out there, and then we disagree on things, and then we're still friends afterwards.
Because it's just bullshitting, and it's just nothing too unbelievably serious. And I like how it's not just the struggle with, like kind of you said, like Chinatown or the Chinese people kind of being isolated, but they're also fighting among themselves, because that's one of the main plots of the movie is they had a parade
where they couldn't decide which flag to show.
Yeah, because if you know anything about like kind of Chinese politics, the country of Taiwan is technically or claimed to be owned by the Chinese government in the mainland China. It's kind of like what Ukraine going through with like Russia right now, basically, where basically China's saying, "Oh no, we own Taiwan," and literally everyone else is just like, "No, you don't." and that's kind of the political state at the time, especially at the time. It's like early '80s. This is like right when China kind of goes into full communism. After the Vietnam War. And I just like the kind of the different perspectives you get on all of it, whether it's from the teacher in the what was it? It was like not a reform school, but like a kind of integration school, I guess.
Yeah, he was teaching them language mainly.
And
English.
Get it from him, and then the perspective from just like a mundane, cook in a restaurant, or I just like that in movies where they're willing to give different perspectives and different ways of thinking, but they're just not telling you, oh, this is how it is, or this is the right way to think. They're just showing you different ways of looking at it, and thought that was well done. And again, it's funny that it's kind of labeled as like a mystery movie when it's more of like a political movie. Or, I want to say satire, but kind of like a political investigation almost, or examination.
Well, I was going to say, because you said that, because I was waiting for somebody to bring that up again, there's like the mystery. Like, I feel like it's cause especially like Joe's dialogue at the end, where he's just like, now I don't really even know what to think about Chan. Like, because one person thinks he's this, one person thinks he's that.
Yeah.
And like, or like, who murdered who with the parade. And it's just more it's more like the life is more of a mystery than just Chan being gone. And like they say that through like a lot of like simple dialogues, but like Joe like reflecting on it is what makes you go like into it a little bit deeper than just like, it didn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels like their journey wasn't like pointless.
Yeah,
because
because I can definitely see it. Because again, you don't really get any answers or really anything. Like they don't really because he even says that about a little bit over halfway in the movie where he said he's more confused after he got all the clues and all the things he's seen than he was at the start. So I know, or I could see someone getting disappointed or not liking that they really didn't get anywhere. But the way the movie shifts, especially from the start, like, you know, from just them looking for this guy to like a big kind of listening of spectrum of people, you know, I think that is really well done and very well presented, or very well written, I should say.
The most
it kind of becomes more like that than the mystery itself. Like the mystery kind of takes the background, but it's not something they totally forget about or something that is completely you're supposed to put your hopes on or your focus on. They kind of slowly, I think, get you into those ideas and eventually the mystery does become the background, and at the end, again, you don't even really get any answers to it. It's just kind of like a self-discovery kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like kind of missing or like recognizing the forest for the trees, where it's like the mystery. The most popular quote from this movie is, "The mystery is appropriately Chinese. What's not there seems to have as much meaning as what is there." And I feel like what's not there is like the lack of answers for what happened to Chan, but what is there is the whole like point of the movie is to get to know these people. Because like movies like this, everyone who walked in on me watching this, they were surprised that it was an old movie in like regular English because they expect like movies from foreign perspectives to just kind of be from that nation, because back then they didn't get a lot of traction like they do nowadays, which
and
is,
I mean, I'll admit, before I watched it, I did think it was like a Chinese or like an Asian movie and there were gonna be subtitles, but and then watching it, it's just they're just here, because I think they even mentioned that almost none of them are from China. Like a lot of them were born here, like in the U.S. I think even Joe says that he was born here. He's never even been to China.
It's interesting to see how much things have changed in the past about 40 years or so. Where it's like there's that quote by the waiter, I think, where he says, "We've been here for 100 years. If they haven't noticed us by now, they don't want to notice us." And it's putting this movie into perspective of how Chinese and any non-white like character is portrayed back then, and they're kind of just like their race, and that's their character. And this really highlights just the average people that you see every single day. And those stories are important because it doesn't feel like the Chinese stuff is like watered down at all. I watched all this whole movie subtitled just to get everything in, but like initially when it came out, Wayne didn't subtitle anything, and he really wanted to emphasize what it was like talking to these people who would go in and out of English, and for the most part, like, you know, you get all the important information, and like the main character's speaking English, but like that adds another layer of like getting to really understand what real life is like, and not so much what's being portrayed all the time through 80s media, where it's just kind of like everyone's like a ninja or like, you know, a cook.
And that really reminds me of an incident. It's funny that we were talking about it earlier in the Daredevil show. If you ever watched that second season, they have this kind of evil group called the Hand, and they're just kind of all like generic. And that's like the worst part about that season is them as the villains, because they're all kind of just generic like ninja guys, and they all just kind of they're just generic evil ninjas. And the actor for Nobu in that show, he's in the second season. He's like the leader of the Hand. You find out later that he's not, but he spoke on it a couple of years ago and said that the showrunner didn't want, like, the writers wanted to flesh out the whole group and flesh him out too and give him a backstory, but it was like the showrunner or like the head of Marvel at TV at the time said that he didn't want that to happen because he didn't think anybody cared about Asian stories. He said, no one cares, so why would we do that? Opposed to something, it's funny, and it's in the same show, in that third season of Daredevil, they have a character who's Indian. His name is Agent Nadeem. He's a FBI agent, and he is way more fleshed out, and way more of a character, but he's Indian and he's obviously in the I don't remember what the Indian main religion that a lot of them follow is called, but he follows that. He doesn't eat meat or anything like that, but that's not just him. That's not his whole character. He is Indian and he does do a lot of kind of typical Indian traditions and stuff like that, but that's just a part of his person, of his character as a whole. And it's something like that I think this movie really tries to get across, that these people aren't just, I think he says it, they just want us to make egg rolls and wonton soup. They don't want to hear, what we have to say. And I think this movie really, like you said, really shows like the people of the town and how they feel, and not only that they are actual people, but within that group there is still kind of dissension and people still disagree with each other, and they're not just a whole collective group of people that you just envision as that's Chinese. They have their own little groups and their whole other little system in there. Again, with the Taiwan and the mainland China stuff, showing that that they're people. They're actual people who live and laugh and talk to each other and don't like each other and all this other. They're not just a big homogenous hodgepodge of just this race.
And yeah, it's I'm glad that we're getting more movies like this for every kind of culture nowadays. It's great that the opportunity is being presented to like really push this forward, even if like initially it was mostly monetary anyway, where it's like, oh, we realize like China is like saving all these terrible Hollywood movies that are like flopping, and like so we're gonna like pander to them, like even though that's kind of how it initially started, and not to say that these movies never existed, but the studios are more conscious about putting these voices forward, and so you do get more eyes on good art because people are like, oh, like we. Not only can we make money off of them, but this is like legitimately interesting, and like it's not just like a lot of the same stuff either.
It's just not generic tropes or things to kind of rope people in, and that's what I hate about modern writing, or a lot of modern Disney or just big budget studios. They're just like, oh well, if we put a Mexican in it, they'll come see it. If we gotta put a Mexican in it, he's gotta say tacos, he's gotta say ay, like oh Dios mío. Like, and that's it. That's like, this is what they do. They just sit there. I mean, the fucking Blue Beetle. Like,
I was literally about to say, Blue Beetle was like...
like, I have this family just sit there and go, oh, Dios mío, you want some tamales? Like, that's it. That's all they're there for. They're there to be Mexican, and that's it.
You're not doing anyone favors by, like, yeah, you're technically representing them, and it's like, oh, well, it's okay to do all these stereotypes because you have a Mexican directing it. And it's like, again... You can have these things in like something that is also good and genuine, Like I'm not in denial of like the Hispanic stereotypes.
Yeah. And I'm not saying they can't like tamales. Yeah. I'm not saying they can't eat tacos.
Adrian and I are Hispanic.
Let's say the two of us can, so it's okay.
That's why it makes us like particularly like annoying.
Yeah, it's just, but they can do other things than just do that. Yeah, and I think it's even worse specifically for Mexicans because I feel like out of all the other races, we're kind of like the bottom of the barrel. Like we're the least amount that people think about it.
I don't know. We're like really the secondary language to America. I feel like.
Well, that's the worst thing is that is like the secondary language of America, but people don't really think about the Mexican people or how to kind of, they're not very represented in art a whole lot.
I don't know. Really. I mean, I feel like outside of movies, Hispanics have a pretty impactful presence all around, even outside of Texas, but in particular in Texas.
I guess I'm just thinking about like movies and more of like the public consciousness and like mainstream people. It's all about being black or white or whatever.
That's a good point. Where it's like most of the Hispanic movies. Like
I'm not seeing anyone stand up for like Mexican rights or Mexican like lives matter or whatever or Hispanic lives. So I mean more just like in the mainstream kind of consciousness where people like to just completely defend like certain races for but it's rarely kind of aimed toward like Mexicans or Latinos just in general.
I see what you're saying. It's this thing where I don't really think about it too often. And much like the characters in the movie.
And again, it's not like I'm necessarily, because one of the worst things I hate is I don't hate it for the reason a lot of other people hate it. Like, I hate when people characters get replaced by like a different race of person, but that's only because I feel like it's never genuine.
Yeah.
It's always just to rope people in, like, oh, we're turning this character black, or we're turning this character Asian, so we can get Asian people to watch it. Not because we care, not because we want to show off culture or show that, oh, these are people. It's just to rope people in to watch the movie so you can get money for it. And I've always felt like, even when I was a kid, like, I never felt alienated from watching, like Batman or something like that because he's white. Just because I just thought it was relatable, his struggles, or Spider-Man. Yeah. Like he had a relatable struggle, and I related with that, and it didn't matter that he was white. He just be a relatable character, and that's what I mean, and where I was kind of going with this. Race literally just doesn't matter. It really doesn't. As long as you write something relatable or have something that someone can latch onto, like, they can be whatever color you fucking want. One of my favorite comic book characters is Luke Cage. He's fucking black, but if you watch that Luke Cage show or you're reading the Luke Cage comics, it's very interesting to see his character and the way they wrote it at the time, and even in modern comics, even though he's literally bulletproof and unbreakable, he still struggles with having relationships and being with people or helping people, and when he should, because he's kind of like a Superman type where he's so powerful he could just stop anything, but when does that go into everyone just starts relying on you and just, oh, you're the solution to everyone's problems and no one has to deal with anything. It's just stuff like that, which you can write it for anybody and it can just relate to anybody. Well, that's why I like it. Again, that's a lot about this movie. They have relatable struggles and things that they deal with every day that like being unnoticed or being kind of swept away by the larger society as a whole, just kind of being ignored. Like, oh, hey, you're gonna be confined to this one block of a city, and that's the only place we really want you.
This other stuff I was about to say is, like, what you just said. It's pretty emblematic of, like, kind of the movie, especially like that scene where he's just sitting and kind of like he just kind of people watches for like a minute or two, and there's like that. Like little jazz, like, or
because he's just walking around and like it's kind of like the camera's like kind of following him, like he's like stalking him or something.
And it's like the people are more interesting than they probably know they are, even though they're just a regular person talking, and it's just because of the authenticity of it. Whereas like you do something like Blue Beetle, or just it's just like, I don't think I'm talking to an authentic Mexican. Like, I'm talking to like I don't know.
It's not like character. It's a caricature.
Yeah.
Like it's a fucking like Sunday morning comic strip character, like not like a real person.
An unusual, like, out there kind of character that I wouldn't like come across on a regular everyday. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I love that quote about the puddle too, where he said, "You want to find Chan? maybe look for that guy in the puddle." Like, I think he
tells that story about the guy. Told him, like, oh, I can't. God damn it! I remember it being really well and really nice, but I can't remember the exact words he says. It's something to the effect of, he had a friend that was looking for somebody, or he was looking for something, and he said he was looking for that guy, and he points in the puddle, and it's the reflection.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way they talked about like identity, and I feel like it was pretty intentional that the puddle is reflected in later in the movie when he's talking about everyone's different idea of who Chan is or what he wants and why he left, and that feeds into the quote where it's like, what's not there is as important as what is there. We can only take what we know, and just as much take what we don't know and use that to learn about the people around us. There's that lady talking about the accident that Chan was in, which is what happened right before he went missing, where there's like this misunderstanding because he uses a double negative to explain a situation. He said, "I did not stop at the stop sign,"
but they interpret it as, "I didn't stop at the stop sign,"
because he responded no to, "Did you stop so you didn't stop at the stop sign?" He said no, and then it's later where he says they have this like anecdote about kind of this like philosophical riddle about this guy who couldn't pay his debts, so like his daughter is like taken by the landlord, and he's like, okay, which one of these doors leads outside and which one leads into my bed? And she's like, I know that door doesn't lead to outside.
Like neither of them do.
Yeah. So it's like it's taking the negative to emphasize the positive, and basically how that plays into a lot of Chinese culture. And like it's this yin and yang, pretty much, where it's like it's not important. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I mean that goes into just the difference, like you said with the reporter girl, like what she says is the difference in dialect and how these people from different countries or traditions can just view something differently. Like if you view a box or like a 3D box from one angle, it looks like a triangle, but if you were on the other side, it looked like a square. Like it's shit like that, just different perspectives. And I guess it's just what the whole movie's about. It's just having a perspective, you know, whether it's realizing the Chinese people as a whole, you know, and seeing them as individual people, or seeing the difference of opinion they all have on Chan, or just their politics going on in the area in general. Because you know, when they go to, what was that, like a retirement home? That's what it was. They don't even call him Chan. Because they're like, who's that? Like, who's that? They know him. I forget the name.
Hi-ho.
Hi-ho. Yeah. Yeah. They call him Hi-ho, and they think he's just this upstanding, like happy-go-lucky kind of guy. But he's really not. You know. And I think that's just what kind of the whole movie is really about. It's just perspective, is changing your view, or just looking at something a different way. And I guess that's why then kind of the core thing is like a mystery, because that's how you really solve mysteries, is like looking at the facts but trying to look at them in different ways to find where your next clue is.
Yeah, under different contexts.
Yeah.
I also like how the yin yang is kind of represented in the beginning. They were conscious about the black and white look, that opening shot where he's driving, and it's perfectly framed, where the reflection of the building on the windshield is showing his hands driving, and the brightness of the sun, which translate into white and black and white, is completely shrouding his face. And it's kind of like commentating on how like Asian people at that time were like, and a lot of other races as well, but in this movie they're just kind of seen as their job. He's the driver, he's the hands, like moving the car around, and you don't get to know who he is. And then like
and he also said that they always ask him what's a good place to eat.
Yeah, under like 5 seconds, like what's a good Chinese place.
No, and it was because he made a little game out of it, and he count until they ask. Yeah, like at the beginning, because he's like, oh, new record. They asked 3 seconds. That shit's funny.
That also kind of goes hand in hand with like, it's like they're not really fighting, but they're like kind of talking back and forth, like talking smack at each other, and like Joe's like you're like two-faced Chinaman, schizophrenic.
And I just really like their dynamic. I just like this. He kind of like what we were talking with Dune. He just has this kind of younger, looser mindset, because at the end he asks him why he's questioning him and why he's doing all this, and because he said he ran into like one of his buddies from school, and he's rich, and he wouldn't even talk to him, and that's what he's focused on. You know, he's focused on kind of getting up and not really worried about anything about his culture or anything like that. But for Joe, that's all he's thinking about. That's all kind of what he's into, is the people and his world that he kind of lives in. And I just really like that dynamic between them, the old and the young. And again, it's not like a typical master student or father figure. They're just two guys. They're just dudes, like kind of bullshitting with each other a little bit, you know?
These guys being dudes.
Yeah, dudes being dudes with each other, holding hands.
Especially like, cause like how they like once they get the money, he's kind of like just ready to move on. You know? You kind of don't even really see or like hear much from Steve.
And the dramatic too, of like most of the time he's the one who's just like, oh well, let's just let the cops do it. We'll just give them the cops, you know, we'll just go there. It's easier. And you know, he's more like, no, they can't help us or whatever. More wanting to kind of get into it, and him just kind of wanting to be separate from it. Kind of just worrying about really just himself and kind of getting the money back, and that's really it.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, if
he's more materialistic.
If he was like self-aware and knew he was in a movie, he'd be like, "Oh, we got the money back. Like time to end it."
Yeah.
But like, it's not really about that.
Yeah.
Or, like them getting the cab or even finding Chan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another great part I love was when they were talking about the riot over the flags that are being waved. They said they took it to the mayor, and he was like, "Oh, just do the American flag."
Yeah.
It's just so funny. It's like that's how they solve.
Yeah,
like,
that's how they kind of see it.
It's like, I don't
It's
care.
Like, why does it matter?
You're in America.
Yeah. To him, it's just something, it just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But to them, it's like everything.
Mm-hmm. And kind of like the nuance and like the way the teacher was like, there's like so much manpower and like so much things to like set up and take down like for two parades like right next to each other. I don't understand why they aren't just on the same day and people just like stay on their sides. And it's because like, people the people in the parade can't agree on anything, but the people watching the parade, it's just a parade to them. Yeah. So it's like it's highlighting what's important about recognizing the culture and the differences between Taiwan and Chinese within that is like, and not just like viewing them as this whole and like ignoring it just for the sake of like, oh, you're in America, who cares?
Yeah.
It's easy to get pulled in like to their stories because like I like how the parade becomes a reference again when he finds the guy's gun. And he's like paranoid for a couple of days, and he's like, it's so weird. I think he even comments on it. Like he's like, it's weird that I'm paranoid about a story that's not even mine. Like, and he's like, I don't even know the difference is I'm paranoid about something I'm not even sure what the facts are, or how much of it's even real or in my own head. Yeah. And like I thought that was really cool for him to like say that.
And but seeing a lot of positive stuff for the most part. I think, but one of my big gripes with this movie, because I really like the writing, obviously, and just the way everything's presented. But I think problem with me for this movie is kind of the filmmaking. I'm not really familiar with this director. I don't know. Was this his first movie?
Let me see. Because I know he went on to direct just like really standard comedies, like Last Holiday, Made in Manhattan, because of Winn-Dixie. That's what he wound up doing.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
But early on, he was much more like Chinese-centric.
Holy shit! What the fuck? What?
Yeah.
I mean,
what the fuck?
I mean, a lot of people.
That is like the weirdest. Like. How do you go from that to saving Winn-Dixie? What?
Because he was literally like another part of the interview was like yeah, my dad didn't really like respect me as a filmmaker until I made in Manhattan, because that was the first like really successful one I did. and yeah, earlier on so this is basically his second movie. Okay. The first one was more like a film project, I think, and he said that even as the director, he said he watched it like even recently, and he was like, I don't even know what was like going on in that one. I just kind of filmed what they told me to. Yeah. So I mean, I do respect directors who are just kind of like there to like do their job and work, but this is like very clearly like one of his more personal projects that he's
because it definitely honestly it definitely feels like a first movie. Mm-hmm. It definitely feels like someone's first try. I mean, and for a first movie, it's not bad, but I think it. Kind of there's some good shots, but nothing really amazing with the camera work and just the whole look and the I don't know if the black and white was purposeful. It's just one of those when you make a movie, a lot of people film their first movies in black and white because it's like way cheaper to do it that way,
especially in the 80s.
Yeah, and even then, so
you're actually filming things and not just like aesthetically choosing.
And
but I do like how they use that to their advantage, at least. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's super cheap,
super cheap looking, and kind of I think does drag in places. I remember a couple of times being kind of checking my phone and like, and this is like an hour 20-minute movie. Kind of checking my phone and seeing I still got another 40 minutes, and honestly I'm finding myself I'm enjoying talking about it more than I did really watching the movie. Okay. I liked the movie. Mm-hmm. It's just at points I don't know, it just kind of lost me. I don't know, maybe because of the filmmaking or just the oldness of the movie, maybe or just the way it was paced. But I just found myself kind of in the parts where he's just kind of walking around or getting from place to place, and nothing really like that is happening. Like with the nuances or them discussing kind of their views, just more with all the investigation stuff before they kind of start really getting into all the political strife. It just kind of felt a little boring to me at times.
That's understandable. I really enjoyed this, and I think the length is just perfect. It like knows exactly what it wants to say and how long.
Yeah.
And but I get what you're saying, because it does, going into it, like, also, like, it sets itself up as a mystery, and it's way more laid back and not as like it doesn't have any like action.
And maybe that's really where the problem lies, is like at first is them
certain expectations
and then kind of them getting into all this, and then again you're not even really satisfied at the end because they don't really get much. But again, like you said, it's kind of not really about that. You kind of discover it's really about people, just people living their lives. And but you don't really get that till the end of the movie. I think watching it is a bit of a slog to me, but like again, talking about it and looking back at it as a whole, and honestly, I probably enjoyed it if I rewatched it a little more. But that's kind of my little gripes with the film.
Yeah, I mean, for as true to life as it is, like there are like, and some people have argued like the artistic purpose of like people looking into the camera, because it's like this side of a city that like people aren't noticed as much, and like, you know, cameras again, like back then it's like they're not like phones like commonplace. There's like an importance to them being seen, but at the same time it's also them looking into the camera, and it does kind of like,
and I mean the whole last 10 minutes where it's just them kind of filming that last like corner block of just kind of people going around. I didn't kind of get it at first, but I kind of see it more as like just kind of showing off people and how they kind of people just function, and it's like almost like a little snippet of Chinatown for them. And I guess again, like you said, that's probably why I kind of found it a little disappointing, because I was more looking for a mystery. It's no ironically, it's no Chinatown, but I think the initial setup is pretty good. It's just like I think you're kind of right. I think I was kind of just dissatisfied at first with kind of where the mystery was going, because it wasn't really going anywhere. But it wasn't really more. It wasn't really about that, you know, especially toward the middle or to the end.
And it helps that there's like resolve with the characters, and like him kind of coming to peace with where he decides to conclude it, and them getting their money back. I feel like that helps a lot, even though you don't get all the answers. It's for me, it's just like kind of that some of the guerrilla style filmmaking works, and sometimes it doesn't quite as much. And you see people,
the camera does bob a lot when he's running around and he's trying to get like a movement shot. It kind of feels like someone's holding the camera. And the elderly home, the way they look into the camera, I feel like that's like appropriate, and like hammering home like being that satisfaction of like finally being noticed after like, you know, kind of breaking away from the mundanity of life for a long time. But for like people on the street, you see like a lot of people looking at that camera from like across when you're focusing on the main character, and it's like there's just like every it kind of takes a little bit of that authenticity away, but at the same time I find it like charming enough, and I understand the way they filmed it to where it's not a huge deal breaker for me. But if I had to like name any gripes about it, that would be pretty much it. But like I really like this for the most part, and it's nice that it's not like trying to be like a classic noir. It's way more true to life, and just like it way more feels like an old dude just trying to find this guy and get his money back.
That was what I was gonna say. Like, my only issue with it is I actually don't care about like the betrayal of expectations. Like, I actually like movies that do that, as long as they don't like beat you over the head with like telling you it's a twist, or they do it at like the last 2 minutes and it's just something totally like unpredicted or like just off trajectory. But like I feel like the transition between like and maybe that's what makes it true to life, but I feel like the transition between it's a mystery and I'm gonna reflect on life is kind of too quick. He's just kind of like, man, I don't think I'm gonna find this guy. Like he kind of doesn't like. There's never a point where he like I guess does one last I don't know like Hail Mary effort to kind of find him. He's kind of just like, I'm not gonna find him. Like I'm just gonna sit down and have a beer and eat a piece of pizza. Like and like I guess that's more kind of realistic, but realistic isn't always entertaining. And that's kind of
I totally get what
and that's
you're
kind
saying.
of why I have to kind of suffer through like a lot of like based on nonfiction movies, like especially war movies. Like man, some of that stuff's boring. Like I really don't care about how like Abraham Lincoln got like a letter. I don't need to see that part.
Well, that's probably because you haven't seen the real Abraham Lincoln movie, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
No, I haven't.
And, yeah, that tells the real history, I think.
But like, there's just like this point where it's just like, yeah, here's the message you're trying to tell, but like you still have to do kind of like purposeful like writing that has to be more than just I'm gonna like be philosophical. Like there's definitely parts that felt like they could have been more entertaining or just filled with more dialogue. Like I always felt like some of the interviews were like way too quick. They kind of just like end and it's kind of just like jarring, like, oh, okay, I guess that's the end of the exchange. But I do get that like the function of ending it like that, or like ending all the interviews that way, because that's just how most conversations are. It's just like, okay, I got the information I need, like, see ya. But one thing I do like a lot that could be seen as like purposeless or just like being amateur is I actually like that the audio is really distorted, especially during like some of it's kind of annoying because I'm like trying to hear somebody, but that's just kind of how real life is. Like, you know, you're talking and then like there's like the girl upstairs like playing loud music or like somebody honking their horn because you know you're in Chinatown. There's a whole bunch of cars everywhere, but I like the dialogue. Usually when there's like a multiple people. I like how most of the time Joe and Steve don't even talk, or if they do, they get in like a line to kind of prompt the other person. But a lot of the times, like I noticed, like I'm sure they just rolled with it too. Like they get cut off. And, like that's how real conversations are. Like you'll be in the middle of saying something and they like talk over you, or like you can hear like commotion in the background. Like the guy, even when the guy is saying this most philosophical thing about the puddle, you can literally hear two people like talking in the background. So I did like that. That felt like it was on purpose. Especially because there was moments where he edited in like music and it's just music. You don't hear commotion. And it's just like, if he really wanted to edit the audio to make it to where there wasn't the commotion in the background, he very well could have, but I think he left it in purposely. Especially like, you know, you can tell that there probably wasn't too many takes because like they'd go off topic and start like talking about something else, and I don't think it was ever like intentional for him to like be like too true to a script. He was just kind of like, all right, you guys can kind of like riff and talk. You know, Joe and Steve will say their lines and the person will say what they want to say, and I'll kind of cut it off when I feel that like I've gotten what I needed. But yeah, like the one guy, it's like the one interview and the guy's kind of going on, and then it cuts to like almost like a thought bubble, or like you just hear Joe internally, and he's like, oh, this guy didn't know where Chan is either. Like, and he's like, he's just kind of going on, and then he's like, okay, thanks, and he kind of just cuts him off and leaves. But it was a interesting movie, but I think I agree with Adrian that like it's not the most entertaining movie, and I could probably get more out of it if it was maybe remastered with a bigger budget or something. You could still leave out the color. I don't think that was distracting at all, but it was pretty good.
Okay, yeah. So ratings.
Yeah, we can get into ratings. You want to go first? You recommended it.
I think it was a solid 8 out of 10. As soon as I finished it the first time, I wanted to show it to other people. It's a really accessible movie for people who really want to see this side of filmmaking that's like, these kinds of movies have existed for a lot longer than you've expected, like nowadays. And it's really inspiring to see that there is practically nothing to be gained in making a movie like this. It was just, it came out of pure love for the people around him. And it's not the most like crazy, like entertaining thing, but at the same time, there's just so much to soak in. And I feel like it packs in a lot for that short runtime too. So I feel like this, it's a very reserved, almost masterpiece. In my opinion, I just feel like it really had it set its goal high, and it like achieved it in a way that wasn't like very flashy. It wasn't really worrying about like what would be the most like successful thing that like catches on. It's just like, this is what he wanted to express, and I feel like there's more entertainment value beyond a story that doesn't get resolved. That it doesn't feel like I'm cheated either. It's just like kind of true to life, and like, yeah, it's like life just kind of moves on. Yeah. And at the very least, you do learn something throughout the movie to where it's like, it wasn't just a big waste of time. So yeah, I would say like a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd probably go a step down and give it a 7, like a 7 out of 10. Again, just with all my gripes about the kind of the filmmaking and the, I don't even want to say amateurish, but it kind of is, and just the lack of I kind of agree with what Hunter was saying. It's interesting, but not very entertaining, and I do get a lot out of it. But I did find myself, especially at the beginning part, kind of being like, okay, where is this going? Like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like. And again, more me expecting kind of more of a mystery, but kind of getting more of a philosophical look on people as a whole, which I still enjoy again, and I like talking about it, and love the dialogue. God, I there's just some things in this movie that I just don't ever see anywhere else. Like the dynamic between the two main leads, the way everyone speaks, it just sounds so. I just love that sound of natural dialogue so much, and like I mentioned before, that's why I like that first season of home movies a lot, because it really just sounds like they got them in a booth, or in this case they just got a person to sit at a table and talk to the actors for like 20 minutes and then cut out the part that they need. And it feels so natural, and I get a real kick out of stuff like that. So yeah, just a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna give it the same, a 7. I feel like the only thing I don't like about maybe the style is like kind of the infusion of, it seemed like you wanted to have two things going on, like a documentary almost, like a just appreciating like Chinatown as a whole and the culture, and like also adding the philosophical like appreciation of it all. But then like where I wasn't fulfilled, and not even because like there's no, there's plenty of ambiguous endings to movies, or like just kind of like you don't get kind of what you want. I don't really care about the ending. I was kind of expecting it too, especially once he's kind of started to give up on finding Chan. But I feel like their story, like Joe and Steve's relationship, could have been, I don't know, had more light shed on it, or like I would have liked to learn more about them. But I also feel like that's hard to do with what he was trying to do, because then it would be kind of like Joe and Steve would kind of stick out, or like contrast compared to the other characters. Like, oh, they're more interesting than the other people, but the whole message of the movie is that everybody's equally interesting, and even if you only get like a 2-minute segment with them. But I don't know, there's still that like personal bias part of me that wanted to see more of Joe and Steve, because they're kind of just like, we got the money, all right, I'll see you later. And I don't know, but maybe that's also the point. It's like, if people are interesting enough to document for an hour and a half, and they really just don't talk about anything like super serious, it's still entertaining enough for me to where I sat and watched 90 minutes of it. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's hard once you compare other movies, because there's just so many other movies that I would say like 9 or 10, and then it's hard to kind of define what kind of brings this movie down, or like what they could have added, but what was presented was really good. So I'm like between a 7 and an 8.
Okay.
All right, yeah. Well, cool.
I think.
Well, yeah, and that was it for Chan is Missing, and now we got another recommendation. It is Hunter's turn, and it's his time to recommend a movie.
Well, this is gonna work out too, because I feel like we've somehow we end up like making like whatever we pick be in some way like tied to whatever we just watched, and in this case it's just like, yeah, for people who want more of like a mystery that's also philosophical. That's definitely what we're gonna watch next, which is Shutter Island by Martin Scorsese.
All right.
Martin Scorsese, one of the only Scorsese movies I haven't seen. I think it's the one with Jesus in it. Both of the Jesus ones
Jesus
I haven't
of
seen.
Nazareth?
Passion of the Christ and
Passion of the Christ is Mel Gibson.
No, not Passion of Christ. Last Temptation of Christ.
Yes, yeah.
Last Temptation of Christ, and it was like the Long Quiet or
Silence.
The
Long Quiet. That was long. And
I mean,
quiet.
that's what that's a long quiet. That's what silence is, you know. So,
but
yeah, like I think those are like the only two I haven't seen, and Shutter Island. Those are like the only ones I haven't seen.
That's what I honestly, without getting into it too much, because I already did watch Shutter Island. I will rewatch it for the podcast, but I think I like it more than most of the Scorsese stuff I've seen, just because like it's very existential and like just kind of, you know, has more to say than like, I don't know, like Goodfellas or like Taxi Driver. It's just like, I mean, they're still good movies, just like Goodfellas and Taxi Driver is kind of just like, I'm gonna go kill a bunch of people and do bad stuff.
Well, I think it's more complicated than that.
Well, yeah,
maybe one day one of us will recommend one of those movies. But I guess I get what you're saying. It's not all just like action and about like kind of because a lot of people can glorify, because even though it's not really what he's going for in those movies, a lot of people can glorify the actions of those people, like the mob, or being like this loner guy, or you know what have you. And,
well, it's not his like traditional character.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good at writing like bad guys.
Yeah.
Ray Liotta.
I mean,
is just like a shitty person.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Cape Fear,
But
or
Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of just
comedy,
like thrown into this story, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. Like,
all right,
and that's how you should go into it too. Like, don't look up a synopsis.
I know Leonardo DiCaprio's in it, and he's like looking for his wife or something.
Kinda.
Something like that.
He's looking for a bunch of stuff. Like, you think it's one thing and it's not. But
okay.
Just like literally don't look into anything. Like you don't even need to know like Leonardo DiCaprio's like role or profession in the movie. Just watch the movie. Like,
all right. Okay. Well, I guess next time we'll be having a big old discussion about Shutter Island by Martin Scorsese, and yeah, I guess that's it from us. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.